What's up guys, Assalamu alaikum, this is Puya. In this tutorial I'm going to show you how to create different variables and how to use autocompletion in Jupyter Notebook. So without further ado, let's kick off. Like always, open up the directory that you want to create, open up your previously created notebooks, or you want to create another notebook. Click in the CMD, type in CMD in the address bar. If you're on Ubuntu, just right click and click on the open terminal. Okay, CMD, enter, and the CMD pops up. In this section, first let's activate on the Pi environment. Then open Jupyter Notebook. So here it is. Okay, I'm going to open variables and autocomplete. Fine. Okay, as I said, we're going to assign a value to a variable, or we're going to create a variable, and we're going to see how to delete a variable, and we're going to see how to use Jupyter Notebooks autocomplete. I think I may want to change this to as well. So it is more general right now. So let's see how to assign values to variables. In Python, there's no need to define the type of the variables at the time of their creation. Just type in the variable's name, in this case counter, type in a equal sign as it showed here, and pass in the value. Here it says counter equals to 100. It means the 100 is going to be assigned to counter. In this case, I assign my name, Puya, to the variable, which is also called name. Puya is going to be assigned to name. For strings, which we are going to cover them, you can use a single quotation or double quotation. And another variable I have created here is called the height, which is 185.0, which means its type is going to be float. So this is how we create variables or assign values to the variables, and we can print them out. Print is a built-in function in Python that prints everything that you pass in, and no matter how many variables you pass to it, it is going to print them all. So let me run this cell again. How about just let me clear all the outputs so we can have a fresh feeling of cells. So here it is. Counter equals to counter, which is 100, and name Booyah, and oh sorry, should have replaced it with height. So let's say you can see height is equal to 185. This is how we assign a variable to a value to a variable. You can have multiple assignments, like you can see here. A equals to B equals to C. All of them are equal to 100. Or another interpretation, we can say we assign 1 at the same time to A, B, C, and the output, let me just put another cell like this, and the output, as you can see, are here A, B, C. All of them are 1. It doesn't need to be you don't need to assign just the same value to multiple variables. You can assign different variables to different values to different variables, like this. As you can see, A is equal to 1, B is equals to 2, second value here, and the C equals to Puya. So at multiple assignment, just make sure the number of variables and the number of values should be the same. In our case, it returns an error, which is called value error. And this is the definition of the error, description of the error, that says too many values to unpack. The Python wants to unpack the values, okay, but it says there are too many values to unpack, which there are 4 values here, but expected 3. As you can see here, we expected to have 3 values, but we've got 4 values. That's why we have value error here. So that's it for multiple assignment. I always ask a question, how to replace the values of 2 variables like a and b from my students. So here it says a is equal to 10 and b is equals to 20. How we can switch the values? For example, we want to see we want to a become 20 and we want to b to become 10. Using multiple assignment, it's really easy to change the variables values. No need to create a third variable like c here. Just replace at the assignment time, just replace the variables like this. A is going to be equal to b and b is going to be equal to a. As you can see here, a is 20 and b is 10. And let's see how we can delete variables. Why we may want to delete a variable. Sometimes you create a variable and to prevent a confusion, or you want to start clear, you have 2 options actually. You can restart the kernel, that all of the variables will be deleted, or you can delete just the only variable that you want to delete it. Like here, for example, a equals to 10, as you can see, and I want to delete it. After you delete a variable, you cannot access it again. You cannot call it like this, okay? Because it's not defined. As you can see, for example, here, when I create this variable and assign the value 10 to it, you can see a equals to 10 here printed out. But when you delete a variable, you cannot have access to it anymore. As you can see, it prints out, it raises name error, which says name a is not defined, which means a is not defined and you want to access it. It doesn't matter you put here a or b, whatever. When a value is not, for example, like b, when a value b created as well. See, for example, b, which I'm sure it's not defined before. When the value is not defined, it's going to say name d is not defined, which means you cannot access to a variable which is not defined before. So this is how you can delete a variable using the del reserved keyword in Python. With whatever comes after del will be deleted. So the important part of this section is autocomplete. Autocomplete is one of the most used features of any IDE that lets you complete your variable or your function or whatever you're typing in your notebook, in your code that has been defined before. Consider, if you remember, with the font counter. Okay, let me define it again here. Consider we have defined counter, okay, and I want to write it down again. Well, I don't know, write this code for whatever reason. I want to, for example, code an equation or whatever, or create a for, or iterate over a list using this counter, or whatever reason. There are almost three options here. For example, first of all, you type in just 2 or 3 characters, first 2 or 3 characters, or even first 1 character. You don't complete it, you just hit the tab when you are on Jupyter Notebook. Okay? When you hit the tab, it's gonna pop up a drop-down menu like this, or drop down list like this that says these are all the possible completion that you can have. For example, you can create callable, you can create a CHR class method, and one of them is counter. It says, okay, if you want to have counter, just click on it and it completes it automatically without you needing to fill it up. In this case, I just, most of the times, I type in like 3 or 4 characters because it's make their searching faster. When you type in 2 characters, okay, the list is tailored a little bit more than the first one. And if you type third of them, as you can see, it says, look, there's only one option. And when there's only one option, it automatically completed just with one hit. When you hit and tab, it automatically completed, which is perfect when you're doing your code. It helps, it makes you super fast, it prevents the misspelling. Okay, consider that you have made a misspelling like this. CO, when I wanted to type, for example, I wanted to type in counter, but I write, for example, instead of U, I write A for whatever reason. When I click on the tab, it shows nothing. Okay, it says, look, bro, there's nothing there. There's nothing that you can create with this COAN unless you get an error. No matter what, if you create it, you'll get an error because it has not defined. So that autocomplete can help you a lot. It prevents a lot of errors, and when it becomes very helpful, it is when you have a variable. In this case, we've got counter. Okay, we've got counter, which is 100, which is equal to 100. Okay, and consider you want to reassign it with another variable, and in that reassignment, instead of writing counter correctly, and instead of using, for example, the tab or at the completion of a Jupyter notebook, you don't use it and you trust your own skills of typing down the variable. And for example, you make a mistake. It happens. It happens all the time. It doesn't matter how experienced you are. It happens all the time. The misspelling, and you don't, and you misspell it like this counter, and you use counter in the rest of your code. Like this, for example, let's run the code, and you, for example, after 100 lines of the code, and you realize the outputs are not logical, they're not correct. For example, here I just assigned 200 to counter, but the output of counter minus 10 is equal to 900. This is not correct. It's supposed to be 190. And you know what happens? You have to debug all the code and just to find out a little simple misspelling that even does not raises an error, because this is just a simple assignment. Python does not realize that you want to reassign or you want to reassign 200 to counter, or you just want to create another variable which is supposed to be very very close to counter in writing, but they're not the same. Okay, so instead of writing all the variables name or all the function or whatever that is defined in Python, instead of writing them by your own, just use the autocomplete. If I have used autocomplete even in this section, oh, actually, unfortunately I ran the code, and when I click on the autocomplete, it really completes it because there is a variable called counter. In this case, you can restart the kernel, or you just simply can use, oh, sorry about this, you can use del to remove it, this variable. Okay, let me remove it again. In this case, at the beginning of my coding, if I had used tab, it would say, hey bro, there's nothing here, there's nothing to reassign, you cannot complete this code. And I would realize, oh, it's not A, it should be U, and there would be no errors. anymore. So that's it for this tutorial. Make sure you use as much as you can. Make sure to hit as much as you can and tab, because it's going to help you prevent misspelling, and it's going to make your coding faster. I mean, instead of typing all this counter, you just type 3 or 4 of them and hit enter. It prevents you from typing just 3 characters, and for other options as well. So, like always, you can access the code in my GitHub repository, which is here. The code is here. Don't forget to start a project, subscribe to the channel, hit the like button and the bell notifier so that you will be notified of the future videos. Thanks for watching.